Well, alrighty then, hello there. So here it is, the much needed fire element tier list. I haven't updated it in a long time. Ever since the Recollection Field Fire Admin and the Fire Element Alice. So yeah, it's been many months since I did it, we got the new idle units and the progressive units that are gonna be the new ones. But of course, many units got EX Awakening, so the tier list is gonna change around a bit. So I really hope this helps out. Now I'm doing less and less tier list, mostly because I either just skip the units or I just don't play around that much with every unit. So I think it's not right to just make a tier list based on just assumptions and not play around. But this past fire ranking event, I actually did play around with some units, so I do have an idea, and of course I did get a grasp of how strong the boss was and stuff like that. And of course I'm updating the tier list because the Soulbird is so close, and it's looking like he's gonna be Fire Element. We literally just had a Fire Element ranking event, Earth Element ranking event, and now a Fire Element ranking event coming up again. So yeah. So of course we got the new tiers. So in the must-have tier, I will just have the must-have characters, basically charge yellers and break yellers. Now the thing is, I do think that break yellers are becoming less and less needed with all these new EX units that can just break a whole lot, break stack and everything. And 200% incarnate skills, units do break twice as much, so it's just becoming easy. It became much easier to break ever since they released the 200% incarnate skills. So break killers are kinda moving downwards, but I'd still say they are a pretty must-have units if you don't have any of the new ones, because they could still help a lot, in my opinion at least. Now, Fire T say, I won't talk about many of the bad units or units that I think are bad that much. So, Fire T say is not that good. She did get her EX Awakening, but with her kit, it's just not worth to use her, in my opinion. Recollection Field Alice was the first Recollection Field character for the Fire Element team. She's still pretty decent if you want to use her, if you don't have the Fire Element admin or the new idol Xenon. Same thing with the Cetus. I mean, of course, these two were like top tier when they came out, but these newer and newer units are just gonna out damage them, outperform them by a lot. So of course most probably this tier list won't even be viable for the Soulbird ranking on, because most probably he's gonna outperform many of these units that I'm gonna put in the higher tiers. Now Integrity Knight Kirito is over a year old at this point, but he's still a pretty good damage dealer. I wouldn't have him in God tier anymore, but you could argue that he could be a God tier, but I'm just gonna put him in the very strong tier because he's still very strong, but not as top tier as he was back when he came out. On Dakira, no. She still doesn't have her EX Awakening, so there's just nothing I can do for her. This Fire Element Alice is pretty decent, but nothing extra special. Even in this recent ranking event, she is a magic attacker and people were not really using him because they are just better units that outdamage her, and it is what it is. On the other hand, this Kirito is like one of the craziest buffers if you are talking about magic attack teams. That enhanced skill of his is just out of these worlds, and I'm so bummed even to this day that I don't have him, because again there are cases that people use him in off element ranking events, like, so yeah, he's crazy. This Yuki, yeah, Iskan is pretty good. He did get his EX Awakening. Now, the thing is, I didn't test him, but I'd say he's, you know, either between the very strong or decent tier or in the very strong tier. You know, the EX Awakening really helps out these units. Not only because of the 200% incarnate skills, but because of the charge stacking or break stacking, which do allow you to do much more and strategize much more. So he's a pretty strong unit in my opinion. This Asuna, still pretty godly, not gonna lie. This Asuna still holds up as one of the best violent magic attackers even today, after almost a year by the way. Crazy. Very crazy unit, but she's limited, so I mean, yeah, these two you can't really get them nowadays. Valentine's Say, I saw many people have her on their teams, and I actually did test her, and she's performing very well with her EX Awakening. Very good breaker. Now, Enhanced Mode Administrator is one of the units that aged very poorly, in my opinion. You could argue that she's in the not good tier. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't even argue against that, but I mean, yeah, she's maybe between these two tiers. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave her in the not good tier because while her art is, you know, is good, her damage and what she does, her kit is just, yeah, pretty outdated. She doesn't really do much other than damage. She does lower physical resistance on her incarnate skill, which is kinda good, but again, her weak continuous damage just doesn't help out as much as it did, you know, when she released. Now, the Valentine's Day Roni compared to the Tisei isn't as useful in my opinion. She's still a very decent option. If you don't have any other, if you didn't get Lifa by example. Because of course she can still charge stack and give you that extra 100% charge at the end of your run, which is a huge help, honestly. So she's still a pretty decent option. She just wasn't as useful during the last ranking event as Tisei was, because you needed the EX Awakened breakers if you didn't want to use the one of the break killers. And it's just much better to deal damage than, you know, to break yell and charge yell at the same time, and you know, it's just much more time and turns wasted. So yeah, I mean, I didn't see as many people use her as Tisei. Then on, of course, this Recollection Field Admin is a very good, very good character. But of course, in the last rank event, people mainly use magic attackers because they had Kirito. So yeah, this admin does physical attacks, so she wouldn't get the buffs. So many people didn't run her, which is understandable. But she still is a pretty OP and a very good choice if you want her as your Recollection Field character. Maybe if you didn't get the new Xenon. Same thing with this Alice. Now, I actually got her very recently. I didn't really have time to test her out. Now, I got her fairly recently after the rank event from one of the free multis, so I had no time to test her out. I basically just maximally broke her and leveled her up and unlocked all her skills. So if the next ranking event is gonna be physical, I might test her out. I'm gonna put her into the very strong tier, and in my opinion her kit looks pretty viable. If, I mean, of course she doesn't have the 200% incarnate skills and all those new mechanics, but she's a fairly recent unit as well, if we look at it like that. So yeah, I mean, for now she's still in the very strong tier, but it might very well change once the Soulbirth comes out. Then on, Fire Element Xenon and Fire Element Lifa. I mean, I can already put them both in the God tier. They're basically the two new top units. This Lifa is probably the, just, you know, one of the most damage dealing units in the team. Like, I mean, the first or second, if we, I mean, really depends in what way you look at it. But I mean, if we look at it as raw damage, then she's the one. But of course, Xenon with the continuous damage is also very close to her. So these two are like the most damage dealing units by far. I mean, Sinon giving 3 recollection fields on her incarnate skill, while also inflicting total continuous damage on her second assault skill, and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, like very good damage. And overall she just has a very good kit, and of course both of them are worth 120, by the way, if you haven't done that yet. And then Lifa, just, you know, the raw damage dealer. If you reach these buffs, if you have 30% magic attack buff, then she gets 30% more damage on her incarnate skill. I mean, yeah, I mean, she's just raising her own magic attack, so it's literally easy. And if you had the Kirito as well on the team, I mean, this Lifa was just bashing out like millions of damages on her 200% incarnate skill. Just 2 very crazy units. Then on, of course, we have the progressive Kirito and Asuna. I can easily put both of them in the very strong tier. So Kirito is a pretty good unit because he can recover HP and raise crit at the same time on his assault skill, which in some cases is very good, because there are some very hard hitting bosses when you really can use these heal on attackers. So yeah, he's a very good unit. Also buffs crit at the same time, if you can see here, and raises physical resistance, which in some cases is also pretty good. And yeah, I mean, he also hits on his incarnate skill, just a pretty good all-around unit. And his damage is fairly good, you know, he's hitting in like the over 200k range. Of course, that depends on if you include him in a 200% incarnate or not. But yeah, he's a very good unit in my opinion. Same thing with the Asuna. Her damage is also fairly good, you know, for a super strong unit. She's actually not the strongest in Fire Element. But yeah, I mean, she's just a damage dealer, and she does that fairly good in my opinion. She also raises her own attack, which is pretty useful. Now, I really wish that they would make the Soulbird, or maybe the unit coming out with him, an attack buffer. That is something that Fire Element really needs, like an AoE attack buffer, maybe by 10% or by 20%. That is what I really wish for, I think. So yeah, that is it for the tier list. I hope you enjoyed it. This is my opinion, and of course I will make this to help you all out. And I really do hope it helps, and hopefully it does stay viable for this next upcoming ranking event. Of course, share your opinions down below if you would change, maybe, you know, move some units up or down. Probably I'm bashing this Violent admin too much, or the Yuki, but I mean, this Yuki literally, you know, depletes 70% of her HP to deal a bit more damage on her assault skill. That's just, like, there is no world where that will be useful, I'm sorry. But I don't know what they were drinking or taking when they made her, or the other rotation units, because yeah, I mean, she's not the best unit in the game. But yeah, I mean, that is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope it helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.